Welcome learners to Module 6, the design of videos for the teaching of technical and vocational skills. Unit 6.1, pre-production of video. Objective 6.1.1, approach to the production of an educational video from the reference framework to the educational video. Lesson for the unit: using the training reference material to exploit the various elements that make it up in order to produce an educational video. For the unit flow chart, we have the training reference guide for video design, elements of the training reference, and development of the indicative resource table, which includes determining learning sequences, determining degrees of complexity, and proposal scenarios. The training framework is developed to the CPA, according to the CPA. The CPA is the approach chosen by the FPT systems in other countries as a curricular approach. CPA is defined as a systematic engineering process which essentially consists of listing the competencies inherent in the exercise of a profession, job, or trade, and transforming them into learning objectives in a study program. Competence is equally defined as the power to act, to succeed, and to progress. It enables tasks to be performed adequately and is the result of an integrated set of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors. In the CPA implementation process, there are stages. Stage 1 has to do with sector or preliminary studies analysis of the planning context, identification of training needs. Step 2, the AST and trade repository validation by the sectorial table. Step 3, elaboration of the competence reference framework and the certification reference framework and validation by the sectorial table. Step 4, elaboration of the training framework. Step 5, implementation of the training program. And step 6, process evaluation. The training reference framework is the basic document that teaching teams and managers of training institutions use for various situations and includes planning of teaching and learning in an interdisciplinary pedagogical unit, the distribution of premises, classrooms, laboratories, or workshops, the development of process sheets, the development of integration sheets, the development of timetables, the preparation of pedagogical sheets for a class to integrate the materials to be used for the different pedagogical sequences, the description of the scenarios in relation to the different specific objectives indicated. All trainers who have experienced the implementation of a training program in a vocational training structure are aware of the elements of the training reference framework they use. These different elements and tools are the following: the general goals of the targeted occupation, the training objectives aimed at in the exercise of the targeted trade, the list of specific and general competencies, the learning object matrix, the flow charts, the table of operationalization of competencies, and the timeline. An example of an operationalization table for skills 8, that is laying a drinking water pipe of the reference framework for drinking water pipe layers at a CAP level in Senegal. That's an example. You have general performance criteria as effective presence of warning grid, strict adherence to alignment, respect for the slope of the pipes. The first part of the operationalization table indicates the code of the competence. CEP 508 means drinking water pipe fitter. Level 5, 8 competence of the reference system. The statement of the competence formulated with the use of the action verb. The total duration of the competence, taking into account the whole training and assessment process, and then the general performance criteria. Each competency has elements of competence. As you can see in the operationalization table. Now, the second part of the table is subdivided into 2 parts, each of which describes an element of competence for its operationalization. The elements that constitute them are the following: the code of the competence element, CEP 50803, means drinking water pipe fitter. Level 5, 8 competence, third competence element. The statement of the competence element, the expected duration of the development of the competence element, the different specific objectives to achieve the element of competence, the main contents and their delimitations, the disciplines that should support the educational objectives, the training scheme consisting of the location and duration for each of the specific objectives, the performance criteria against which the element of competence will be assessed. A time limit is set for the organization of the necessary integration session, a time frame for the integration of the skill. The exploitation of the operationalization table allows the elaboration of a pedagogical sheet. There is a need for each trainer to draw up different learning sequences based on specific objectives. The different sequences can be subdivided into sessions, and each session can be the subject of a teaching sheet. The exploitation of the operationalization table allows the elaboration of a pedagogical sheet. There is a need for each trainer to draw up different learning sequences based on specific objectives. The indicative table of resources is a tool developed by the teaching teams under the guidance of an inspector or a methodologist. It is developed in the following stages: determining the learning sequences, determining the degrees of complexity, the proposal of a scenario or scenarios. The table on the screen shows an example of an indicative table of resources drawn up from the Senegalese training reference framework for the trade of drinking water pipe fitter at CAP level. This unit discussed the training reference material for the design of videos. It x-rayed the elements of the training reference framework. The unit also considered the process involved in the development of the indicative resource table. Now that you have completed this segment of instruction, please engage in the following transformative reflection activities. Focus on your assumptions that underline your beliefs, feelings, and actions regarding the importance of using the training reference material. Examine and assess the consequences of these assumptions on your belief, feelings, and actions in relation to the use of the training reference material. Consider your learning experiences while completing this segment of instruction. Make a critical reflection of how this instruction has enabled you to identify and explore alternative assumptions or reinforced your existing assumptions regarding the importance of using the training reference material. If this reflection has enabled you to consider alternative assumptions, test the validity of these assumptions by participating in a reflective dialogue with a critical friend or by engaging in self-reflection. Go through the quizzes of the multiple choice questions, circling the correct answers that apply to each question.